pro-life laws are being passed in states across America. We have encouraging news for you on the Citizenlink report. I'm Stuart, Shepard, along with Carrie, Gordon, Earll, who tracks the life issue for us and who also watches over our team of analysts here at Citizenlink. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Stuart.
Since the Supreme Court legalized abortion on demand back in 1973 through Roe v. Wade and also through the Doe v. Bolton decisions, there have been efforts at the state level, also the federal level, but particularly the state level, to place common sense boundaries on what's okay and what's not. Now, of course, we would like to see it thrown out entirely, but in the meantime, we would like to see these incremental laws put in place. And the past year has seen a lot of them.
Well, 2011 is the year that we just finished at the legislative sessions. Right now we're in the 2012 year. Yeah. 2011 was really a bumper crop, if you will. It was a record number of pro-life laws that were passed at the state level. More than 60 measures had been passed, and that was a record level. In fact, a spokesperson for a leading pro-abortion group said of 2011, she said, it was pretty much an all-out anti-abortion free-for-all, unlike any year we've seen before.
Which we would say good.
We did say good.
Yeah.
So really, 2011 is a banner year. Going into 2012, we're seeing some good measures moving forward. I don't think it's going to be quite as good as 2011 was, but it's still very encouraging.
Let's talk about some of the laws that are being passed. We'll deal with them category by category because they come in several distinct areas. First, laws that protect women and children. What are you seeing in that area?
Well, there are three that I would flag for us today, and one would be ultrasound, that allows women to see an ultrasound. The other would be preventing what we call webcam abortions, and the third, requiring abortionists to have hospital privileges. Yeah. And I'll go over those just real quickly here. Ultrasound in the state of Virginia, the governor there has signed a bill making Virginia the 24th state to have a provision that allows a woman to see an ultrasound before she has an abortion. Pennsylvania is working on a similar law. What a lot of people don't realize is the abortion business, before they do an abortion, they often do an ultrasound because they want to confirm the pregnancy, they want to know the gestational age of the baby. So this is something that is happening
for medical reasons and legal reasons.
Yes,
yeah.
Already in the abortion center that's happening. But the difference is the woman is not being offered, the mother is not being offered a chance to see the ultrasound.
And we know that the opportunity to see that image can make a life-changing decision. I mean, that can lead to a young woman making a decision not to have the abortion.
Absolutely, because it's allowing her to connect in a personal human way, to put a face on that baby. And too often in an unplanned pregnancy, a woman's reaction is to disconnect. And the offer of the ultrasound, at least just the offer, lets her reconnect. We know from Focus on the Family's Option Ultrasound Project that provides ultrasound machines and trainings to pro-life medical clinics. What we have found is an estimated 120,000 babies have been saved since 2004 when that program started. So when you talk about ultrasound laws, those really have an impact. Another category we're watching are what we call webcam or telemed abortions. Again, in Wisconsin, the governor there has prohibited, he has signed a bill that has prohibited the webcams. That makes Wisconsin the 5th state. There's also a bill in Minnesota where they're working on that. Now, this is an interesting use of technology, if you will. It uses video conferencing that people may think, yeah, I use that in my business, I use that at my job or at my church. But this is using teleconferencing to allow the abortion businesses to have a broader scope of impact. So what you'll have, for instance, would be an abortionist sitting in a location, one place, a woman sitting in a very different location, another city even, and you have through teleconference, through video conference, they're talking to each other. That is the consultation, if you will, for her abortion. Right. Then the abortionist is able to activate remotely a drawer in the location where she is to allow her access to the abortion drug, RU486. Now, generally, if you're in two different locations, you're not getting a physical examination. You're not having a lot of the FDA-required protocol for using this drug. So what we're seeing is Wisconsin and 4 other states passing laws to say, you know, we're not going to do that because abortions can be complicated. We know that women can die using these drugs. Yeah. And we want to see there be some kind of accountability. This is a reasonable standard of care. And the last category I'd mention real quick are hospital privileges. You know, you may not think of that, but your doctor in your hometown caring for you likely has hospital privileges. They're able to go to the ER to be there with you if there's some kind of an emergency, but most abortionists do not. And this is a type of legislation being considered right now in Mississippi and Tennessee. And this is important because, again, it's a minimum standard of care. There are emergencies that happen with abortion. We just reported on Citizenlink of a situation in Birmingham, Alabama, where the state has demanded the license from an abortion center there because 2 women were injured and kind of through a back alley put in an ambulance and taken to the emergency room. Now, this type of legislation may actually shut down the remaining abortion clinic in Mississippi because most of the abortionists are from out of state. So this is a reasonable standard of care for women. If you risk having an emergency, you want a doctor to be able to go with you to the ER, call the ER to have some kind of accountability there.
It's the kind of thing ordinary folks would think are already in place. I mean, that's the surprising thing. We would expect that, but yet states have not been requiring that, hence we've got this different standard for abortion clinics. The second category, talk about laws that protect conscience rights, and I believe this deals specifically with people who work in the healthcare profession.
Well, there are a couple of different bills pending, and that's what's so interesting to watch in the states as they respond to issues that are cropping up across the country. In the state of Kansas, there is a measure that would allow the healthcare providers, as you mentioned, to be able to refuse to participate or refer for abortion. Actually, Kansas has a pretty good law on this, and this bill would increase that scope. That's expected to pass. In Missouri, you have 2 different issues that are cropping up. The first is for those providers to be able to say, I don't want to be involved with abortion or maybe embryonic stem cell research. The other is for employers, and we've talked about that on Citizenlink, the rights of employers to say, you know, I don't want to fund abortion-causing drugs or contraceptives or sterilization. And this is a bill in Missouri that would allow them to be exempt from that unless it was medically necessary. So these are issues, again, that are bringing to the state level where often you have a more pro-life or more conservative bent than you have at the federal level.
Right. And the third category, laws to protect taxpayers, and particularly pro-life taxpayers who are saying, hey, wait a minute, I don't want you using my tax money taken from my paycheck for that.
Actually, most Americans don't want their tax dollars used for abortion, but it does resonate very deeply with pro-life Americans.
Yeah.
There are a couple of bills here. Again, we're back to Wisconsin, where Governor Scott Walker has signed another good bill, and that stops health care plans operating in the state of Wisconsin from having health care exchanges that have abortion involved. This goes to that federal health care reform bill, Obamacare, and the incorporation of abortion funding there. New Hampshire, the House has passed several good measures. They're battling right now with the Senate over a measure that would prohibit public funding, and that impacts facilities that take public money that do abortions. So there's a lot of good activity going on at the state level, and we really want to encourage these types of bills to be moving forward.
Now, one of the long-term conversations that's gone on within the pro-life community, we would like to see abortion ended. Want to be absolutely clear about that. That's our prayer, that it would no longer be acceptable in our society, in our culture, in our nation to have any abortions of any kind. That's our goal. But we realize that's going to be a long ways off, that currently the makeup of the Supreme Court and also the House and Senate is not such that it would lend itself to that. So then you have to decide, what do you do in the meantime? What do we do now? Talk about this incremental approach, the idea of moving the boundary just one step at a time as we move forward.
Well, as we've seen, there's been some federal legislation passed, but it doesn't measure at all with what the opportunities we've had in the state. And because the U.S. Supreme Court has really tied the hands of the states through the ruling in 1973, they've given some leeway since then in other rulings, and that's what state legislatures are working with. What is the leeway the Supreme Court has given here? And some pretty innovative things like we've talked about here. The ultrasound, another one, banning later-term abortions based on fetal pain. Those are some of the initiatives that are moving forward. But you know, Stuart, what's interesting is research has found over a 15-year period, abortions have declined more than 22% due to incremental measures like we're talking about here. So in the meantime, while we're waiting for opportunity before the U.S. Supreme Court, while we're waiting for the political climate to change a little bit, these types of laws, parental involvement, women's right to know, limiting Medicaid funding has a huge impact on that.
Yeah.
Those are saving hundreds of thousands of lives of preborn children, as well as saving their mothers the experience of having to go through an abortion. So this is a good strategy in the landscape we have right now.
I think it's important to note as well, just having the conversation about these laws as they come through. Many of them have not passed. Many have fallen by the wayside as we've gone along, but yet it brought into the public conscience the idea of what actually happens during an abortion.
Absolutely. It's being a witness for the value and the sanctity of life, not only of the child, but of the mother as well.
All right. Carrie, thank you so much for keeping track of this. We've had a difficult time in our media channels just following them all because there have been so many, and frankly, that's a good problem to have.
It's an exciting time. Anytime.
All right. Thank you,
Thank
Carrie.
you.
And thanks to all of you who have shared with us via email and other ways of contacting us. You may always write to us at mail@citizenlink.com. Let us know what you think. Let us know what your opinion is and how you view the way that our nation is moving. We encourage you to pray for state lawmakers across America this year as they deal with pro-life laws that are being brought up, pro-life measures rather, that are being brought up. Pray that they would have wisdom and insight as they weigh those, tweak the language of them, and try to get them to set common sense boundaries for the edges of where abortion is allowed. And remember, stand tall and be heard.